Okay, perfect. I think we're on now, Miller. Okay, awesome. I think we're going to get started now, Miller. So, hello everyone for connecting and watching today. Today, we're continuing on with our Tamil Innovators Spotlight event with Miller Alexander Rajendran. For those of you expecting Anjali, I'm stepping in for today. Hopefully, I can do continue the awesome job she's been doing. Just to kind of give an introduction to Miller, just some quick highlights before we kind of, let him speak and share his story. Miller is an event coordinator, which is a volunteer role at the Jarl Alti Hub in Jaffna. And the goal of the organization, for those of you not familiar with it, is that the dream is to make Jaffna the next Silicon Valley. Miller also joined SendMate IoT Solutions, which then pivoted, and he kind of spun it off from there to be the CEO and co-found a company called SenzAgro Technologies, which will be the focus of the discussion for today. It's Sri Lanka's first agri-tech company. It offers, at a high level, farmers soil sensor technology and cloud-based analytics with micro irrigation systems to help farmers essentially increase crop yield and reduce water, fertilization, and energy costs. So at a high level, just really reduce climate impact. And Miller was actually selected to be a climate ambassador for Sri Lanka. So just another note before we kind of continue further is, the Tamil Innovators Spotlight is an online series which puts a spotlight on individuals from the global Tamil community who are building great products, services, and initiatives. And this event is brought to you in partnership with mystartupdojo.com as well as TamilCulture.com. And for those of you listening, my name is Era Ihamparam, and I'm one of the co-founders of TamilCulture.com, and I also host my own podcast called The Tamil Creator. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome our featured speaker for today, Miller Alexander Rajendran, CEO and co-founder of SenzAgro, Sri Lanka's first agri-tech startup. And he's joining us today from Colombo, Sri Lanka. So welcome, Miller.
Thank you so much, Ara, and thank you so much, Tamil Culture, for inviting me, and great pleasure to meet you, everyone.
Perfect. And for the listeners that are kind of just listening, whether you're on Facebook Live or on Zoom, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions. So please type away. Don't be shy. Questions are awesome. We'll kind of get into some of the questions you have in the middle. Sorry, in the middle. So just to start things off, Miller, why don't you kind of tell us a bit about SenzAgro? And I guess even before that, we had a conversation before this around, some of the misconceptions that people in the West, Canada, UK, US, might have around business opportunities available in Sri Lanka. So can you describe both the startup ecosystem in Sri Lanka as well as, just kind of then delving into kind of how you started SenzAgro?
Sure. Thank you so much, Ara. It's a great opportunity for me to represent Sri Lanka and give an overall view how the startup ecosystem work. Um, so, give you a glimpse. First of all, Sri Lanka is a fantastic opportunity for any tech-related environment because any startup, by the way, Sri Lanka's location itself, the global giants see this as an opportunity where Sri Lanka have a similar behavior. If you want to test as a market, it replicate a behavior of 2 billion people around. So Google, Street Viewer to Microsoft to everyone see this as an opportunity where Sri Lanka is a fantastic test bed. First of all, if you want to have a arm of technology arm in Sri Lanka and expand it and testing out the market and expanding in the regional market. So apart from Sri Lankan tech industry, it's very vibrant. The third largest export market is tech at the moment in Sri Lanka after garments and tea. So because we are producing fantastic quality engineers. If you take Google Summer of Code, every single year for last 10 years, it's one of the top three engineering universities coming from Sri Lanka, Moroto University, obviously. So there are plenty of opportunities. Best engineers, very similar expenses compared to the regional South Indian market, but the quality was much higher compared to the other regional companion neighborhood countries. and the behavior of the market. It's a fantastic opportunity where you can have a collaboration within Sri Lanka as opening market for tech. Um, at the same time, the startup industry is very young because the oldest running accelerator is YAL IT Hub. So that means a 10-year-old YAL IT Hub accelerator. So in this sense, it's a very young ecosystem, and it's on the early stage. It's growing up. So it's a fantastic opportunity to be a part of early stage collaboration with any startup, especially in the tech industry. So any company, any individual or a investment firm can collaborate with and can go through a fantastic evaluation process also, because there are world standard company evaluation companies also there. So it's a fantastic opportunity for early adapters and early stage investors to be part of a Sri Lankan organization.
Yeah, just to kind
So
of,
in
sorry, oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, just to kind of build on what you're saying, if you could maybe elaborate further on, three of the key ingredients of an ecosystem, would be
Right.
funding or money, then the talent like you kind of talked about, and then opportunity. So maybe you can elaborate a bit more on that as well.
Sure, definitely. So Sri Lankan ecosystem, it's known for the premium product. As we all know, Sri Lanka is known for the premium tea, premium coffee, spices, and so on. The geography is very small, so the population is comparatively small. So this is a place where it's coming from the best premium quality. So the countries depend on premium quality products. So that brand itself, it's worth a lot. So that's where the most of the investment at the moment comes in for tourism to export, and especially in the tech industry. So the Sri Lankan tech industry is supporting Uber. If you take WSO2 is the main core backend for Uber, eBay or Expedia. So any large technology is complete kind of dependent on Sri Lankan technology firms, even NASA. So NASA to PepsiCo and everything. So it's a fantastic pool of environment which is pretty much under the radar at this moment because it's a premium market, but it's a very small market. It's not like saturated as India for an extent. So, but the opportunities at the moment is pretty much very much restricted to the people who know about the industry, people who know about the market, who are the people who are investing again and again and get the benefit out of it. So it's need to be saturated. So this that's kind of a request from a startup point of view. So if there is a investment industry interest or collaboration interest, Sri Lanka is the best place where you can come up with, and the location where it's very good with the neighboring countries. We don't have issues with India, or we don't have issues with China. So manufacturing or expansion and everything, Sri Lanka is a fantastic destination to build and expand. So I can't say this is as a consumer market, but it's definitely a test bed. So that's where we are also focusing on.
So that's great. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity to kind of get in early. Investment and making money is all about kind of getting in when there's not alignment in terms of information. So you make money when you know information that people don't know about. So that sounds great. Maybe we kind of can delve into SenzAgro. So maybe tell us how you started the company, why you started the company, and we'll kind of get into some interesting stories that we talked about earlier.
Sure, definitely. So first of all, so myself and my partners and friends, we are not born entrepreneurs. We get to know about startup and entrepreneurship through YAL ITF. So that's where we started. So I studied in Jaffna University. I studied computer science, and my friends are from electronics and telecommunication, Moroto University. And the best part, we all born in the same age. We are all in the same age group. So that's eventually give us a jail where we know our roles, how to play. And we connected through YAL IT Hub. Basically, we are competitors. Jay and John, they come with their own ideas to the Geek Challenge as competition. And myself, I have a team from Jaffna University. We compete each other. Finally, I start my own company in Jaffna while working at YAL ITF to gain my startup knowledge because I don't have a single clue what startup is all about in 2014, that time period. So same thing for Jayendra and John. They start their own company called SenseMate. Literally, the name is Sensor Based Friends. They are specialized on sensors and electronics. So that's what their domain is. So when in 2015, 2016 era, we identified SenseMate can be expanded a huge scale because the potential of IoT, no one know about IoT at that time in Sri Lanka. 2015 people playing around with Raspberry Pis and open source hardware, and these guys producing PCBs and IoT platforms. So that inspires me a lot because my company is pretty much on marketing oriented, and I'm working part time because I'm working at the IIT also. So I thought this is a fantastic opportunity, and I can play a good role where this word can be expanded because I am pretty much interested in marketing. Even my final year research I did on marketing, on natural language processing, marketing content, and make it viral. So that's my strength. So we joined together through Yal idea, and it was a very struggling early days. So the technology, we got an investment from Yal idea itself. Probably we are the first company in Sri Lanka who got a crowdfunding from our community. So through Yal idea members, we got a small funding. With that, because we need looking for funding because it's a hardware integrated technology. So there is an hardware and investment must be there at least to bring a prototype out. So from that only we can bring to the market product
Sorry,
market fit and identifying everything.
sorry, how much were you able to raise from the community in that initial kind of injection?
At the at today's funding range, it's around $11,000, I would say in USD.
Got it.
It's 3 million rupees. It's a crowdfunding, like community funding. So the best part, we don't know anything apart from engineering. So Jay and John invest the entire money on technology and put the technology to 10 farmers in Jaffna and receiving like 1,000 rupees, like less than $10 per month as a subscription. You can see when they can reach the business model. It's never going to work at all. Even the first PCB was built in Canada. So that was close to $500 for us. But the same technology what we are building for less than $30 for the same PCB what we are building, and even optimized at the moment. So it's all learning for the last 5 years what we gain. But early days we spend money, we the business model and plenty of things, there are loopholes. We had a very, very successful failure in 2015. So we came back to Colombo from Jaffna, and so we working on the platform, the IoT platform, and we got an investment, like pretty much a grant. It's a grant from the government called ICTA, the Sri Lankan ICT agency. They gave us a close to $3,000 grant at the moment. Um, with that grant, we pivoted from agriculture to post-harvest technology. So that's where the first thing happens in 2016, and still that product called Polar is one of our bread and butter. So that was a huge success. So all the blue chip companies in Sri Lanka on board as a client for that product. So with that, it pretty much bootstrap. We gone zero and we build over a grant. So it's pretty much bootstrapped after that in 2016. So 2017, we got a fantastic opportunity to travel Barcelona through the government endorsement. So we represent Sri Lanka in the IoT sector, and we went to Barcelona. It's a very, very tight program called Mobile World Congress. Close to 17,000 people around the world participate onto it. So that's where we find out the opportunities on agriculture and how big countries and big companies around the world doing it. How Bosch working on agriculture, how Microsoft working on agriculture, and Germans putting technology into agriculture, how drones working on agriculture, Israeli technologies on agriculture. So that inspires a lot. So we worked again and we tried to bring the technology this time with more business sense more than the technical sense, because we know the technology, it's already on shelf right now. So we have the hardware capability. We have built a supply chain network in China, the manufacturing arms in China. So everything in place. Right now, we can bring a technology very less expensive. So now we rebuild the business model, how we can support smallholder farmers in Sri Lanka, and how we can expand. So we raised around through a competition. We are the top 5 corporate investments from Sri Lanka, from John Keel's holdings. With that, it's called John Keel's Innovation X program. So we got invested and incubated. With that endorsement, we kick off SenzAgro again. Now it's a fantastic hit. We can confidently say we are the leading ag-tech company in Sri Lanka at the moment, and we are expanding in the region as well. And specialty of this technology, we are the first company in the world in ag-tech going complete SaaS model. That's how we get into the smallholders environment. So there is no capital expense a farmer paying on monthly rental base. All our hardware And software, everything goes on a monthly rental, so farmers can adapt for a very, very small price without a risk of capital investment. So that strategy was built over the time, and we raised a couple of rounds of investment, and it's expanding very well. And that's a great story. You can talk any all the time.
That's very smart to kind of go the SaaS route because, like you said, nobody wants to incur, capital costs up front, and you
Yep,
picture like how big these farms are. So that makes sense. Um, I think I've heard of another company in Canada doing Agri-tech as well, and from my understanding, it's a very hard business to be in. As you kind of mentioned, it's
definitely.
been like a 5 or 6 year journey. So knowing that kind of upfront, or maybe you didn't know, what kind of keeps you going, or like what made you kind of want to start this company, from a personal point of view, knowing that it would be such a grind, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very simple theory behind, because I'm a fifth generation farmer. Jay and Joel also a fourth generation farmer. So we all coming from farming background. That's what we know. Before engineering, I'm the first graduate in my family and the entire tree. So that's what I know, agriculture, and I work with them. I live with them. So and it's kind of interesting for an engineer not to sit behind a computer. So if you take my social media pictures, you can see I'm sitting in a flower garden, or I'm traveling hundreds of kilometers per day, and sitting with mud and working with farmers. So that's an interesting job for an engineer who's sitting behind a computer. So that's what my thought process also when I'm starting to study computer science. But now what I'm doing, it's what keep us going, and the opportunity also. If you take last 2 years of the global market also, Agtech is Agtech received the largest investment round. So last year, if you take the largest investment goes to Pinduoduo and Impossible Food. Uh, Two companies raised almost $1 billion as startup. So that's the secret behind on food industry and alternative meat, alternative protein, and all this agriculture technology environment. So we are at the right time on the right place with the right technology, and if we miss out this opportunity, there's nothing we can make out of it. So that's why it's an inspiration which is kicking off, and we are very clear on where we are going towards and the potential of this market where we are working on. And the roots are also very clear, being the first company from Sri Lanka, and almost one of the earliest company in the region as well on this particular technology. So we get plenty of attention throughout the region, and we participated in World Agri-tech program, even got opportunities to talk with Canadian Agriculture Ministry also to do a project in Saskatchewan. So there are plenty of potential opportunities coming toward us because we are in the right time on the right industry.
So
So
you
that's
mentioned, I'm sorry, you mentioned that you have a clear idea of where you're going. So where is SenzAgro going? Like, where do you see the company in the next 3 to 5 years?
right. So that's from the day one, SenzAgro is a spin-off venture, right? So SenzAgro have a potential plan to have an exit for a large-scale agriculture business. So 2 years back, before COVID, right before COVID, like 2 weeks back, we went to Singapore, met one of the largest agriculture company in the world. I think third largest agriculture company in the world. So the plan was to become a part of that company and acquired by that company. Because of the potential, they can take this SenzAgro maybe 100 times bigger than what we can make in the same time. So that's one plan. That's what the ultimate plan what we had. But at the moment, the plan was to make it as IPO also potential, because of the market opportunity what we have. It grow automatically, even we stick into this market, at least make it break even for a long time period. That's fair enough to make this as an IPO, and it's eventually grow itself. So the potential is opening up in very big ways. So there's very focused ideology to going towards a large scale exit with proving the market in a very potential way in the region.
Okay, got it. And I know we kind of were looking at the future. One thing I forgot to kind of ask you as well, and we kind of touched on the funding part of it. You mentioned a story about Bernard Sinne.
Yeah, sure.
For those of you who don't know, he's a very interesting character. He's a UK based, I guess he worked at Citigroup for like 30 years, and he's done a bunch of investments, and I know he's like one of your advisors. So can you talk about that story before we kind of go into
Sure.
the future as well? Yeah.
First of all, China was an amazing person. So It was supposed to be celebrated as Sundar Pichai, but we missed it out because he was the managing director for Citibank, the 12th largest brand in the world, and he was the managing director for it. And he was a banker for 37 years, and he bring one of the important part for our company, the financial aspect. We all engineers, whatever we do in the industry, we can probably we understand agriculture. We have agronomists on our team, but in a global point of view of finance, he bring fantastic value for us. So the story behind how we met Chinna was amazing because um, I mentioned that we went to Barcelona for through the endorsement of government. So Mr. Bernard came to our podium because we were in Sri Lankan podium that time. So he came and talked to all the startups. We didn't know who is Chinna, or he didn't came with any branding or any logos of Citibank. He just came to us and talked to us as a general person because there are 17,000 people in this program. So it's another individual. Then we connected. Since we all coming from Jaffna, we connected in that sense. He talked about his book that he wrote about the Jaffna boy and so on. So then we connected through LinkedIn. That's it. So after 3.5 years, when we go looking for the seed round of SenzAgro, so we took a list of people, and the list was including the people we met in Barcelona. So it's a very random message. It's a 300 character message what we shared with China to we are raising some investment. Are you interested? That's it. And within 24 days the investment round was closed. That was the best part of it. Now he is one of the best endorsement what we have, and a person who always support us, and it's a fantastic branding also having the managing director of Citibank in our team. So that's opening up plenty of doors and trust.
That's amazing. I mean, I want to kind of, I know we've kind of, talked a lot in terms of your story. I want to kind of just summarize for those, people listening. So you come from a farming family. You're the first, and I think you mentioned your co-founders as well, are the first to kind of graduate in like your kind of lineage, I guess you're saying, like in terms of graduate. You started a business and around technology, hardware, where you guys had pretty much very little knowledge around. And then over the course of kind of, I think it's been 5, 6 years, you took it from an idea to raising money, like you crowdfunded through your LRT hub. You raise money from individuals like Bernardson. You raise money from kind of institutional, like investors. I guess I really want people that are listening to this kind of get two things from this, which is number one, it seems like one of the things you kind of did was you took an organized approach to networking. So you kind of kept in touch with people that could potentially help you down the line. Number two, you took action. Like even though you had no idea, or like you and the team had very little idea of how to build an agri-tech business, you took something that was a challenge maybe in kind of your personal experience, and you built it into a company. And where you're going is you're going to build on kind of the SaaS-based model company where it's totally different from any other agri-tech kind of company in the world, for the most part, kind of doing completely SaaS-based from both a hardware and software point of view. And your future goal is to take SenzAgro to potentially IPO or maybe get acquired by a company that will take what you've kind of built and the traction you've built and build on it 10 times fold, right? Just to kind of make sure we
Exactly.
summarize.
Exactly.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I want to, we talked a lot about your, the company aspect of it. And one of the things I mentioned earlier on was the big why behind why you started this was really climate impact. Like you come from a farming family, so you kind of understand and have seen that firsthand. And recently you were selected as climate ambassador for Sri Lanka. So maybe tell us a bit more about that and what that entails.
Sure, definitely. So, Climate Ambassador program, it's by World Bank. So from 153 countries, so they choose people under 30 as ambassadors for represent that particular country and give a real-time statistic and a kind of representation what's happening, which is something wrong in the conventional practices on people's day-to-day works or in industrial point of view, and pointing out those things and creating pointing the World Bank where to invest, where to fix the climate issues. So that's what the role of a climate ambassador. So, and we have the World Bank's endorsement where we can represent as climate ambassadors to pointing out what you are doing wrong. Probably this is how supposed to do, and so on. So how the selection was very it's very common because it's selected by the already existing work what we are doing already in the day-to-day workflow what we are doing, because uh, they handpicked people. Especially we just represent, we can nominate people, that's one thing, but they will handpick based on the profile and what they are doing. So the important part, even as a small country like Sri Lanka, we are in the sixth rank according to last year. We are in the sixth rank of climate risk index. So at the same time, before that, we were in the second rank. After Japan, we are in the second rank. So that's more complicated for a small country. At the moment, if you see around, we have enough resources in terms of water. You can um, inhale the air without a mask. So that's what you see at the moment. But the risk index is all about how fast we are destroying the existing ecosystem and how bad we are going into. That's the score. So we are going drastically bad. We don't have any awareness in terms of the water utilization. Especially farmers know about it. Farmers know it was fresh water 5 years back. Now it's salinity water. We grounding too much and so on. They understand, but people not collaborated or working with the ecosystem. They only know the air they are taking on, it's good or bad, it's whether it's polluted, whether I need to wear a mask. That's all a urban person or the people who are making policies understand. And this is unbelievably on timely action, because if you if you're following Sri Lankan context at the moment, the climate is the most talking point at the moment. So people fighting with the government and plenty of things happening politically also. So the biggest problem at the moment, the climate impact is, it's a thing you can't, it's not tangible. You can't see this impact created by these trees and this water clean and it's give this impact. It's not tangible, but the benefit, if you cut down these trees and you can make something, the financial benefits is pretty tangible. So people see this short term benefit what they have, so the long term they didn't concern. uh, Sad story, even in public media, ministers talking about why we need oxygen. So that's the crazy things happening in Sri Lanka at the moment. People, the youngsters talking against it, but it's a very bad time we are at the moment. So our job as a climate ambassador, so because there are 4 people selected from Sri Lanka because of the risk we are in. So our job is to identify the look areas where it has so much impact, a large audience or large population creating that impact. Could be polluting the ocean, it can be over usage of fertilizer, chemical fertilizer, and contaminating the water and the soil. Could be anything, but we need to come up with reports and we need to point out the impact with quantifiable scale. Then World Bank upcoming investments towards climate smart goes into that. So we have important responsibility which is millions of dollars worth. So totally around 200 ambassadors from 153 countries, and happy to be one of them.
Amazing. I mean, I think climate change is like now the hot topic everywhere, like especially with the US, kind of that back and forth the last couple of years where they pulled out of like that climate
Yep.
change accord and now they're trying to get back into it. Um, I before kind of going further, I know there's people listening, and if you have any questions, I want to kind of put this out there again. We'd love to kind of, I'm sure Miller would love to kind of answer any questions you might have.
Sure.
And while we kind of wait for people to do that, we'll kind of delve into some other maybe more personal questions as well. And, while we're kind of chatting, folks, please don't hesitate to send those questions. We talked a lot of, about your company, but as most entrepreneurs, maybe we don't realize it as well, but you are more than your company. So what do you like to do for fun outside of, work?
As I explained, so what I'm doing is what my fun is all about. I do what I'm good at. So and imagine like so fun time is something you doing it on your auxiliary time, right? So, so it's supposed to a person. If I'm a person who I'm sitting behind a computer, then for 15 hours, then I need to worry about how do I spend 5 hours without being on the computer. But I'm always traveling around and sitting in a flower garden or in a farm or somewhere else. So I'm always having fun. That's the best part of keep kicking off, going on. And it's kind of pretty hard at the moment working from home for me. That's the bad part at the moment, taking rest, I would say. So most probably it's playing around. So I'm not a sports person or athletic person. I'm like always like a hobbies type of a guy. But in the universities, I played everything. So I'm kind of like to play around. So I want to get sweat and so on. So we have a table tennis pool in our office, and we always play around TT. So that's one of my favorite activity. But mostly it's around traveling and going to the field, different ecosystems. Sri Lanka is a fantastic, beautiful country where you, within 3 hours from 35 degree to 15 degree, you can travel within 3 hours time period. So that's the best part of it. I travel, I getting different ecosystem, different sceneries. People pay millions of dollars to come to Sri Lanka and see all those things. I'm fortunate enough to travel all those things all the time. I'm usually I travel at least 400, 500 kilometers a day if it's on a working day. So that's the most funnable part of my job.
Where is like your favorite place to travel within Sri Lanka? Like your, I wouldn't say go to, but your favorite.
Okay, so I've been multiple times. So we have an installation in a place called Boroland. So that's close to in the Uva province, close to Bandara those area. So in night time, the temperature goes below 15, 14 degrees Celsius. It's surrounded by mountains, so it's like a hot pocket where you get so much of humidity and cold temperature. But the environment was fantastic. You have up and down hills and eucalyptus trees, and it looks like a Harry Potter movie and the forest type of environment if you walk around. So that was fantastic, and I travel at least 10 times a year maybe. So because we have a couple of installations there, so I'm identifying. Still, I'm exploring and identifying location and pinpointing in my Google Map. That's what's happening.
In terms of, for most entrepreneurs, like a support system is also important as well. For you, talk about like, your friends, family, like what kind of support you've kind of got through this journey of being an entrepreneur.
Okay, so friends always supported. So the ecosystem was just picking up when we are starting. So people just it was a hot topic when we starting startup. Before that, people talking about tech hackathons where universities compete each other. Now there's no concept of hackathon, even for schools to big players. Everyone talking about startup programs, startup accelerators or incubators, and so on. Now I would say like 90% of the hackathons turn into startup programs. So we were pretty early on to that stage, and it was picking up. Everyone started to support. But family, it's pretty much they don't understand. As I said, I'm the first graduate from my family, even from my friends also. Mostly, Jay have his brothers also from engineering background, but for John and myself, we're the first graduates from the family. So that's kind of always have these people. Parents have this fear. So these guys studied something, and I'm not an engineer, but for John's point, John is the second ranker when we are doing A levels. So he was the island top. So the parents, they have a fear, like he studied a lot and he was the best in the country, and now you're doing something and you can't pull out anything out of it because $11,000 the entire investment. So we run on that investment for 16 months. You know how much payment we can take it out of it, right? So because there's no zero clients, so for 16 months. So in that sense, there's nothing we taking home, and we call it like ramen profit. We can eat something what we can get. So so that kind of situation, and we visit Barcelona with 300,000. I would say like $2,500. We had 16 days of trip to Barcelona with $1,500, including the up and down flight ticket for three of us. Complete backpacking. So that was the best turning point in our business time period also. So it was a hard journey. Family was afraid. Still, my mother can't explain what I'm doing. So my brother is an engineer, so software engineer. He also did IT, but he's a software engineer. Myself, I did computer science. My mother can't explain whether I'm an engineer, what I'm doing. I'm doing a company. No one believe it. So simply will say you're working in an IT company. Still, my mother say you're working on an IT company. That's all. they can't explain. But they are kind of satisfied right now because financially we're stable at the moment, and we do something. We do a day job, so that's the important part for them. Early days, definitely there was a risk, and we also had one confident. We all studied IT, and there are 200,000 employments need to be fulfilled with IT, and we whenever we drop this opportunity what we are doing right now, we have a job. So that confidence keep us going in the early days. Now it's like no way turning back. So if we drop something, there are 33 engineers behind us, we need to pay them. So now it's more critical situation, I would say.
But I mean, it must be nice to know that, I mean, I know you have to pay payroll for 35 engineers, but just knowing that if everything goes to crap, at the end of the day, you guys could find employment, but obviously that's not your goal. Your goal is to make this kind of what we
Make something.
described earlier.
Definitely. So one point to highlight. So we can simply start a website development company or a app development company. There are thousands of companies like that. So the first day one point, especially for this is the vision of Jay and John. I can't get the credit because they want to start a brand which is hardware oriented. They want to compete with Bosch. They want to compete with John Deere's and all these hardware manufacturers because they are 95% of the electronic engineers choosing computer science as their career job. No one doing electronics because there's no companies who provide that opportunity. So they want to do what they love. So they studied electronic and telecommunication. They want to work something on that, and so they want to create a brand. So I support them how to expand this brand and how we can work out on this and create this brand globally because no one adapt us. To give a glimpse, early days before crowdfunding from All Idea, we so Jay and John travel around the angel investors. No single investor want to invest on a hardware company, and these guys also don't want to let the hardware part going on. So and that's why we have to go for a community fund because we didn't get any interest from any investors. But as I mentioned, the second raise for our spin-off venture with all this tech record, it took us only 24 days. That's the success story we have. No one want to invest on us. Now we can close a round within 24 days. So that's kind of it's proof we do something, it's right, and we want to continue what we are doing. And happy to say that we stick into our plan. We still don't do any website or anything apart from if it's not including hardware, IoT, or artificial intelligence, or data science, or enterprise technology development. We don't do anything about it. We have plenty of requests from diaspora communities and from our families and around the world, but we don't do it. We just divert that into our friends who are doing the same company in the environment. But now we have our solutions happening in 9 different countries around the world, and it's expanding, and that's fair enough for us. And we are creating a brand. Now, people don't say that it's a company who providing agriculture technology. They say by the name SenzAgro. So none of them in the country, if they talking about agtech, they definitely talk about SenzAgro in the first place. So even our competitors. So that's what the ultimate success what we had, and happy to say it's like pretty much a pride also. We currently we had plenty of interest from investors locally, but best part, our angel investors can't invest on the ticket size what we have. So it's not, it's a humble thing, but I mean it's not a pride. It's a success what we want to share. So the ticket size of Sri Lankan current investments cannot match SenzMate or SenzAgro's investment rounds at the moment. So that's kind of a happy story at the moment.
It's amazing. Another part of kind of the entrepreneurial mind or journey is really around kind of learning and kind of the process of perpetual learning. So for you, are there, I guess, how do you learn? Is there a book or a podcast that you kind of listen to kind of always improve your knowledge and either for your business or even for yourself?
So it's definitely learning. So we are taught engineers. We don't have the vision to become entrepreneurs. So it was first of all the idea of entrepreneurship given by RIT, all the networking, all the concept. There is the concept of entrepreneurship was there. Everything taught by RIT, and we mentor juniors and other teams. We got some ideas how to do presentation, how to do business model, and all those things. Then the ICTA program, we learn everything professionally. Especially, we are so good in financial management. So as I said, like 16 days, a European trip for 8 countries within $1,500 for 3 engineers. So that's kind of a financial management we can manage at the moment. So that all trained by the program, the mentors we got it received from ICTA, and then the corporate investment, the incubator program through John Keels. So that's we got plenty of premium mentors around the world, especially from MIT. The juniors of the person Bill, who wrote the 24 Disciplines of Entrepreneurship. That author's juniors, I got the opportunity to learn from them for 1 week. Then we learned from MIT University, then Growth Tribe from Netherlands. So all these opportunities we got from various program and various accelerator and incubator program, and we met plenty of mentors around the path for the last 5 years. And there are some inputs everyone feed into our entire chain of progress. Still we are learning, but especially my style of podcast and learning, it's pretty much on agriculture side of it or climate related things. I talk to people mainly. I love to talk with people and get some input. Agriculture is always something I supposed to learn because I don't know anything and I'm learning all of this. But podcast part, I usually listen. I'm fortunate to, thanks to COVID, I got the opportunity to listen to plenty of people as webinars just like this. I to meet plenty of people around the world, and especially my friends also tease me on that. I'm pretty much a piggybacking guy. I learn from the exact competitors who do things right or wrong. We just learn from that. So my usual time goes on listening to competitors around the world, what they did, they podcast, and they so one of the main podcasts would be from Ross Harvey. So she is an Australian entrepreneur, one of the top 100 women entrepreneurs of Australia. So she's the founder of The Yield. So The Yield, probably the largest success story of agtech in the precision agriculture industry. So I got plenty of opportunities, but I figured out mostly the technology is pretty much same. So more than the success stories, we identify things they're doing wrong that cannot be implemented in the emerging markets or the smallholder markets. So those are things we identify when they're explaining about a business model, how they expanding in Australia and New Zealand. We identify this cannot be implemented in Sri Lanka or India. So that's the opportunity. So the exact same replica of the solution, but in a different approach. So those type of things what we usually learn and pretty much replicating, I would say. There's nothing wrong about it.
Yeah. No, that's a smart methodology. So Miller, what kind of advice would you give your younger self? So say you're talking to your 16-year-old self. What's the advice that you would give him?
Okay. So it's exactly 15 years back. So I definitely, so I want to be pretty much on the bioscience side of it because I allowed my teachers, they doing on science. So I studied bio that time mostly. Then eventually the SAS score and the system turned me into a computer engineer, computer science graduate. But that time, if I'm talking about, I definitely will say learn IT because that's the trend. Because I am completely zero until I'm getting into university. I don't know anything about IT or technologies. So if after my ordinary level, I supposed to learn about IT, and I missed plenty of opportunities in the entire era of IT. Just like the dot-com crash, we miss out plenty of things because my lecturer, Dr. Thabozaran, introduced me to blockchain and Bitcoin in 2011,
Wow.
first period of the thing. That time, a Bitcoin was $8, I believe. So those are some of the mistakes I made because we don't know about it.
Yeah.
So if I'm talking about it, definitely I will say learn IT and looking for the trend, or else it'll be fade out.
Okay. What are some, as we're kind of getting to the end of this webinar, what, for the people listening or the people that will be also listening after the fact as well, what advice do you want to give any aspiring entrepreneurs or just people listening, or just, I guess, words of advice would you want to leave with people listening?
Definitely. So if the people are pretty much into, I'm just assuming mostly entrepreneurs. So I'm just giving a junior entrepreneur advice. So if you are looking for a new opening or a new venture you want to start, the best opportunity is always on the mainstream. Technology cannot be a mainstream. That's what mostly we did as a mistake on the early days, because we want to make technology much as possible stable and it's very strong, but it's not the case. So the mainstream like agriculture, food, or health sector, we need to choose some sector and solve a problem. It was always on the business plan, like what's the problem and solution. Most of the entrepreneurs around the country, what I see at least, especially Sri Lankan entrepreneurs, with this island mentality, we build something for the local aspect, we see a local problem and solve. Mostly we build a technology and try to fit the problem according to it, but the opportunity in the mainstream was so big, especially in climate change. Climate change, it's an opportunity itself. So that's what the main thing I always want to say to my students or the mentoring programs and all. If they are taking an impact oriented startup, mostly people talking about impact right now because it has money and it has the way vibe. If you want to do something on impact oriented thing, always do something, see impact or climate change or any problem as an opportunity. So if water scarcity situation happening, don't try to sell how to use alternative. Try to sell something how to reduce your work around, because it's take a big transition when you are doing something conventional for years of time. That's what I'm experiencing right now in agriculture. They're doing agriculture for 2000 years right now in the same conventional methodologies, slight changes. If you want to do something, just forget about your guesswork and all the things you will learn. Just listen to the sensors, what it says, and do your irrigation and fertigation according to it. No one going to do that. So it's a big transition, but it's supposed to be localized to the environment and by understanding the exact need. So calculate financially, don't prioritize the technology upfront. That's the basic thing I want to say. Most of people doing that mistake.
Yeah, I think it's very common in kind of engineering-centric companies where you over-engineer something versus what's the actual problem that will actually generate money, because that will feed the evolution of kind of how you build a company, how the technology is kind of built
Exactly.
out. That's so great. Thank you again, Miller. I mean, I think the last, about 45 minutes, you've kind of shared a lot of really good pieces of information and advice. So for everyone who's kind of listening in as well, thank you so much for tuning in today. As a final note, I would like to tell everyone here to be sure to visit TamilCulture.com to network and collaborate with Tamil innovators worldwide, like Miller. And Miller, thank you again for kind of being involved in this event. Please be sure to check out the amazing work that SenzAgro is up to at www.senz, so SenzAgro.com/web. And thank you guys again for joining today, and hope to see you guys next time. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Tamil Culture. It's a great opportunity for us to represent.
Thank you.
Happy to see you guys.